There was a point in my life that on paper I was doing everything right. I was checking boxes, setting goals, even hitting some of them. But beneath all of the effort, I felt stuck. Not because I wasn't trying hard enough, not because I didn't care, but because I wasn't asking the right questions. You see, we're trained to chase answers. Read more books, listen to more podcasts, search for different strategies. Transformation doesn't begin with the answers. It begins with better questions. Questions that cut through the noise. Questions that interrupt autopilot. Questions that force you to stop performing and start becoming. I recently released a video on asking better questions, and today I'm going to dive deeper into the 7 questions that changed my life. These questions changed how I think, how I lead, how I grow. And I believe if you lean in with courage, they'll change you too. The first question that changed my life was, what is the cost of staying the same? Let's be honest, growth costs. There's a price to pay to grow. But conversely, so does staying stuck. And when I first began to ask myself this question, it felt like a gut punch. Because we don't normally look at what it costs to change something, we just know that something has to change. Often we look at the fear, the risk, and the sacrifice. But do we consider the cost of living another year in the same cycle? If you avoid a tough conversation, what's the cost? If you delay starting the dream because of fear, what's the cost? If you stay for an extended amount of time in the wrong environment, what is the cost? And here's the truth that I want you to remember. Comfort always costs you something, and is usually your purpose. So what's the area that you've been avoiding growth in? I challenge you to take a moment to reflect and ask, if I stay here another year, what will it cost me? Because I've heard it said that in the end, we regret the chances we didn't take more than the mistakes we made. The second question that changed my life is, what if fear is actually a green light? There's this voice we all hear at some point. What if it doesn't work? What if I fail? What if they judge me? But the best days of my life began when I started to flip that question. And the question that I began to consider is, what if fear wasn't a stop sign but a signal? What if the anxiety you feel before you speak up in a situation isn't danger but direction? What if the fear you feel before launching into your dream is actually an indication that you're right on time? And the thing that we have to consider is, if fear was always a warning, we'd never grow. Sometimes fear is an indication to go for it and an invitation to the life that you dreamed of. What are the things in your life that you've avoided because of fear? And what is the potential opportunity that is hiding behind it? Never forget that fear is a growth alarm that only goes off when you're near the edge of your comfort zone. The next question that changed my life is, what am I pretending not to know? This one was challenging for me because, let's be real, we like to act confused. We say, I'm not sure. I'm still figuring it out. I need more time. But often that's not the truth. We're stalling. The truth is, we know. We just don't want to own the decision or take the risk or have to deal with what might come after. And this is the reason why you talk in circles with your friends, just to hear them confirm what you already know on the inside. I heard the story about a business partnership where there was a founder and they hired a CEO, and there wasn't an alignment. And the founder let this go on for some time, hoping it would get better. But deep down, the founder knew, we're just not a match. The founder wasn't confused, he was scared. And often we don't lack clarity, we lack honesty with ourselves and others. And I think a helpful question and a difficult question to ask ourselves is, where in my life am I acting confused when I already know what I need to do? And if you're watching me, I want to submit this thought to you. You don't need more information, you need to take courage. The fourth question that changed my life is, what identity am I protecting with this excuse? Excuses aren't random. My granddaddy used to say, an excuse ain't nothing but a secondhand lie. It's a lie that you tell yourself first and pass down to others. And the thing about excuses is they're not just laziness, they're not just fear. They're often a form of protection. But the thing is, they are protecting a version of you that feels safe but stuck. Maybe you're saying you're not a morning person, as if God genetically engineered morning people. Maybe you're saying you're not good with money, as if God genetically engineered people that are good with money. Maybe you're saying you're just not disciplined, as if God said, all right, this one, we're gonna make them undisciplined. We have to be careful with the excuses that we are accepting from ourselves, because you can either hang out there in your comfort zone of excuses, or you can begin to tell yourself that that's not me, that is a past version of myself that I am outgrowing. Every excuse is shielding a scared identity. When I used to say things like, I don't like structure, what I was really doing was shielding the version of me that feared accountability. Structure wasn't a problem, being seen was the problem. So what are your top 3 excuses? Ask yourself, what identity am I protecting with these 3? And make a decision that I will no longer be loyal to the version of me that's afraid. I'm becoming who I'm supposed to be. Question number 5 that changed my life is a common one. If I knew I couldn't fail, what would I start today? I love this question because it bypasses fear and it activates imagination. Albert Einstein is quoted as saying, imagination is everything. It's the preview to life's coming attractions. Years ago, I sat with this question and I wrote down, start my own thing. At the time, I was working a secure job, as secure as a job can be, but don't get me started on that. But the very question unlocked a vision that I hadn't allowed myself to dream. And here's the thing. Most of us aren't limited by what's possible. We're limited by what we are willing to imagine. Take a seat, grab a pen, sit down with no editing and no judgment, and ask yourself, if failure wasn't an option, what would I do? And what I love about this question is it gives us the permission to want what we actually want. The 6th question that changed my life is, what would this look like if it were easy? This one is for the overthinkers, for the perfectionists, the high achievers. I've heard Myron Golden say that we have become addicted to difficulty. And all that means is we overcomplicate everything. And we tell ourselves that it has to be hard to be meaningful. We grind ourselves into exhaustion, thinking that somehow struggle equates to value. But sometimes ease is wisdom. When I first started content creation, I made it so complex that I was burning myself out trying to keep up. But the more I developed, I began to ask myself the question, what would this look like if it were easy? And suddenly I built a system and found flow. And I want you to remember this phrase: simple is likely to scale and complicated is likely to fail. So pick one stuck area and begin to ask yourself, what's the easiest first step I could take? Maybe it's not perfect, but it's progress. The 7th question that changed my life is, who do I need to become to live the life I was born to live? This is the final shift from doing to being. Because success isn't just about habits or hustle, it's about identity. Don't chase goals, become the person who naturally achieves them. Close your eyes, picture the version of you that is already living the life you want. What do they believe? How do they carry themselves? How do they speak? What do they no longer tolerate? I challenge you to make this declaration. I am becoming, fill in the blank. But don't fill it with what you do. Fill it with who you are. You don't need a 5-year plan. You don't need to have it all figured out. You just need one good question. And I've shared with you the 7 that changed my life. So begin to figure out your questions. Ask with courage and answer with honesty. And I'm curious, which one of the 7 questions I just went through hit you the hardest? And more importantly, What's the honest answer you've been avoiding? Growth isn't magic, it's not a mystery. It's the result of choosing truth over comfort, one question at a time. You already have the wisdom. Some of you already know what to do. You just needed the right question to unlock it. Always remember that growth is a journey, it's not a destination. I'm in it with you, and I'll see you on the next one.